Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and query our database for this data, which we haven't actually inserted yet, but we'll go ahead and stick some dummy data in, and then we're going to return these rows and then output them, and we'll see the results of this. We'll just sort of test this and play around with it, and then we'll go ahead and in the next video look at putting messages into the database as well. So the first thing we want to do is query the database, so we'll go ahead and get rid of this comment. Because we've extended out this chat class from core, we've got access to this query method here, which we're going to go ahead, let's get rid of this, we're going to go ahead and do. So this query, so we have access to this method, and in here we need a query. So what's our query going to be? Now the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and insert some dummy data into our database. So let's just refresh that. So inside of chat, I'm going to go ahead and insert a couple of values. Now over in users, you can see that we've got a user ID of 1 and 2 for Alex and Billy. So I'm going to create a message from both users just so we can test this out. So user ID of 1 here and user ID of 2 here. We leave these blanks, they auto increment. So I'm going to say great chat app, and then here, thanks. So the timestamps are just going to be Unix timestamps, so we'll select that from the function list here in PHP My Admin. Perfect. Let's go ahead and click go and browse, and you'll see now we've got a message ID of 1 and 2, a user ID of 1 and 2 here because we've got from Alex and Billy, and then the message and the timestamp. Perfect. So we can now go over to our code and start to write our query. Now the first thing we need to do is select the message, then we need to select the username that the message is from. Now these are the only two fields that we're returning. You can return the timestamp and output this if you like, but that's pretty straightforward when you understand this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select chat.message. So we're selecting from the chat table. Now this isn't required, but we're going to be doing some joins, so it makes sense to do it this way. So we're selecting the chat.message and users, so from the user table we're selecting the user's username, and you might want to go ahead and select the user's ID as well, so we'll just go ahead and do that. So user ID, or we could of course select this from chat, but we'll do it from user ID anyway. So we're going to select that from chat, but hold on a minute, we're also selecting data from the users table. So what we need to do is we need to join the two tables, and we need to join this to users, so we're joining chat and users. Now what are we joining on? Well, this is going to be a comparison between two fields, so we're joining by user ID. So we need to say chat.userid equals users.userid. Cool, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and order this by a specific field. So I'm going to order this by chat timestamp, so when the message was posted, and I'm going to do this in descending order. So let's just go over that again. We're selecting the message from the chat table, the username from the users table, and the user ID from the users table. So we're selecting that from chat, but then we're joining users on so we can actually select these, and then we're doing that on the fact that the user IDs match. We're ordering it by the timestamp in descending order. Now we need to return these rows because we're not actually returning any data from this method yet. So to return, we just say return rows. This will calculate it all up for us, and then it will return that rows array. So we say return this rows. Perfect. So let's go ahead and test this fetch messages in our index file. So we've got a little testing space up here. So I'm going to say chat equals new chat. So we instantiate the chat object, which then obviously extends from core. So we then have access to all of our database stuff. And I'm going to say print r chat get fetch messages. So this is going to print R, so we'll get a visual representation of the array. Let's go ahead and refresh, and class chat not found. Of course it's not found because that comes after our init.php. So let's just go ahead and require this in here for testing purposes. So it's in core classes and it's chat.php. We also might want to include core. Perfect. So when we go ahead and refresh, we now get this array up here. Let's go ahead and make some changes to this actually so we can see it a bit better. We're going to go ahead and echo this between pre-formatted tags. So like this, we'll just stick true as additional argument. So this is what we get. We get 2 results come back. We've got an associative array because we've got the message here, which is the message that we defined, the username who posted, the user ID who posted, and here we've got the same thing with the Billy and the 2. So although we're not strictly defining the username in here, we've pulled that from the users table using the relative user ID. So this is all we need now. We can go ahead and output in here at a later date. We're not going to be doing this now because we're going to be doing this with JavaScript, and this is going to be set on a timer to repeat this every 5 seconds or so. So in the next part of the tutorial, we'll look at actually putting data into the database, which is extremely easy.